Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Steve Case with Electrorent, and thank you for joining us on our power testing webinar with Instek. I think we're ready to get started now. So before I hand it over, let's talk about who's here today. Today, our presenter is Hector Aguilar, Applications Engineer at Instek, and has been 10 years as a quality engineer and does all of Instek's application engineering. And some of that he's going to show us today. And I've been around a little while, been doing applications engineering and systems design, and know a little bit about power supplies and things like that. So we'll get started here. I just have a little commercial about Electrorent. We're large rental and used equipment a company that is worldwide. We have offices in London, China, Asia, in Penang, and of course, with most of our assets in London and in California. And fortunately, we sell Instek in most of these places. So we have that fortunate situation there for us. So I'm going to get ready and hand it over to Hector. Oh, but before I do, we do have a separate questions and answers section, and we'll be monitoring it during the presentation. We can stop, and if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A section, and I'm going to fork it over to Hector. And right now, Hector, I'm letting you drive the webinar. So good morning.
How you doing, Steve? Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
I was talking to myself here.
Okay, so go ahead.
Are you able to see my screen?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if I can. All right. Well, thank you, Electrorent. Thank you, Steve, for organizing this. Thank you to all the people who took time out of their day to be present today. So my name, as Steve had slated, my name is Hector Aguilar. I'm the apps engineer for Instek America. And we're happy to do one of these webinars to provide a little bit more information about us and possibly provide some solutions for any type of applications you may require in your field. So today we'll talk about, the power testing markets, who they are, the types of devices that those markets entail or are used in. We'll do a little bit overview of the power testing technical challenges that we've come across here at DW Instek. Primarily, the challenges that we've seen in the battery testing department, validation and burn-in test, creating fast, customized testing profiles, dynamic and transient load testing. And obviously, everybody has budget and time constraints, and we're all limited to resources nowadays, especially with the pandemic in the past year. Well, I got only 2 years. Wow. And we'll talk about some of our product highlights that we have, and so the promotion that's currently going on, and just provide a little bit overview of some of our test solutions that we have here at DW Instek. So let's just get started. Let me move this a little bit. So the 10 markets we typically tend to market to, electric vehicle is very, it's growing everywhere. Tesla, Lucid Motors, amongst other, Ford is getting into the game. Renewable energy, solar, wind power, semiconductors, automotive, aerospace, robotics. So some of the markets that we serve. So all of these markets require power and any type of power that you can imagine, from power supplies to the ECU. And batteries, obviously, the charging stations that are being planned to being implemented throughout the country and throughout the whole world as well. I know we've already had some success locally, as well as in Europe as well, has implemented some of these charging stations. So we've seen more and more of these. But obviously, all these types of devices under test or devices need testing in the semiconductor, autonomous robots, ECUs, power supplies. So all these go into the types of markets that we're trying to target. And obviously all these need to be tested in some way or form. However, there's challenges that are presented in these types of devices and markets with respect to the technical challenges. So we'll go over the battery testing. Sometimes it's not as easy to set up, sometimes it's not affordable. We're talking about thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to put some equipment together and be able to do a charge discharge cycle. Validation testing with additional software, software is getting a little bit more expensive, especially now with a lot of the inflation that's currently occurring throughout the country. The next challenge would be, creating fast, customizable waveforms that are not too easily done if you don't know about the equipment and the types of solutions that we offer, or in general. And we'll talk about the easy, how easy it is to set up dynamic and transient load testing on some of our e-loads. So with battery testing, obviously the challenges are always resources and costs, right? Some of it we require buying expensive software or even writing the code ourselves, depending if you're able to afford a program engineer or a software engineer that's able to do that for you. So one of the things you need to do in this type of charge discharge is to need to analyze the battery characteristics as well as the capacity. And above all, manage the data, so you get all this data. So what do you do with it? How do you collect it? How do you organize it? How do you view it? How do you analyze it? So what we try to do, if you don't know who the Instek is, we're a power company. Our thing is power supplies and electronic lead loads. We do offer a pretty wide portfolio, but our primary bread and butter is power supplies and electronic loads. So we're able to do charge and discharge cycles on battery tests. Here we go. However, what we're trying to really get to people to know is our link view software. With applicable e-loads and power supplies, you can actually control up to 12 channels on one terminal using our software. We can run the charge and discharge cycles. They acquire the power profiles and analyze the results themselves. It's very easy, well, in my opinion, very easy to navigate through. It's very intuitive. Obviously, we always recommend that you read the manual for the software, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's very easy to kind of program. So the steps that would be taken is you would actually just indicate to the software, hey, I'm using a PSW or a PSU or PFR. Those are some of the applicable power supplies that can be used with this program. You indicate what the model number is, and obviously the limits of that model number actually come up. And you can actually, if you need to, or if you are using parallel master slave configuration, you can also indicate it here, and it would actually indicate the correct limits of that configuration. The same is true for the electronic loads. You indicate the type of electronic load. In this case, it's L3000, and it gives you the limits after indicating the model. So in conjunction, you already indicating to the software, hey, I'm going to use this power supply and this e-load, and it makes it a lot easier for you to kind of start indicating cycles. So the drop-down menus make it easy to set up and create the test routines. As you can see here, as I've mentioned before, you can control up to 12 channels. In this case, you're controlling 8 channels here. Charge discharge on this particular e-load modular, the L2000A. Once you've indicated the type of instruments you're going to be using with this software, you would just indicate the type of cycles. So for example, in this case, we're using four steps. The first step would be sleep. You would charge, you would sleep again, and you would discharge as your last step. And for each of those steps, you would indicate the type of parameter that you're actually going to use. In this case, it's indicated as a charge. The voltage you're going to charge to, the current, the maximum current you may need to draw, and the power that you may need to also consume. And the types of conditions, for example, if you want to end it at 2,600 seconds, or you want to end it at when your charge comes to 32 volts, or the current reaches 14 amps. Or you can, if there's any errors in it, when it comes, maybe it might spike, there's something wrong with the battery. You'll indicate, hey, if there's an error condition, the test would automatically shut off. Now, I do want to say we are working on a beta version with this software. Hopefully, we'll release it sometime next year. But that would have the additional specification of being able to measure the temperature of the device under test. And that's important because for example, if you're discharging a battery and it's getting too hot, well, it's actually good to monitor, so you'll be able to shut off the sequence as soon as you could. Well, once you run those types of charge discharge cycles, your your data would show up as you can see here on the screen. So you're able to monitor it long-term, live data monitoring, you just point and view. You can zoom out to see if you want to have a little clearer picture of what you're looking at here in the graph. You can also define the types of displays you want to see. In this case, it's voltage over time. You can put power, you can put amperage here, you can change it to power here. And it makes it very simple to do. I know I'm going very practical on this, but it's you know, it allows you to not be able to go to different vendors and different equipment manufacturers, different software companies to put it all together. So we're trying to offer an all-in-one package for our customers to make it a lot easier for you to just kind of plug and play. So one thing about the LinkView software, it is actually, well, we have a free version to download on our website. Now, the reason we offer a free download is because, well, we want you to be able to try it out for yourself, make sure it works for you using our electronic loads and our power supplies. The caveat is if you do like it, you would have to buy actually the full version, but the full version is pretty accessible. The difference between the free version and the full version is the data that you collect. You cannot save it on the free version. You can only see it, you can analyze it on the screen, but you can't save it to be able to analyze at another later date or another terminal. So that is the caveat. However, I think it's very it's a benefit to you to be able to try, kind of try before you buy. And so if it works for you, hey, great, we're here to help you as best we could. You're not obligated to, buy the software and say, oh, it doesn't really work for me and you can't really refund it. Well, we're giving you that option to be able to, hey, I want to try it out. If it works for me, great. We'll help you out in the best way we can with acquiring the full version. The next challenge would be in terms of doing burn-in test and validation testing. Obviously, again, the challenges are resources and cost, where you will require an engineer to kind of write the testing software for this. You would need additional computers, and each computer requires a license, and that incurs another cost. So costs can rack up very quickly. You have one station, okay, no problem. But you have 3, 4, 5. Those licenses can start to begin accumulating costs and become very expensive. So what we're trying to kind of offer, if you need to kind of create a test pattern or a test sequence without having to, go to this expensive software to be able to do so, we have the test script function on some of our power supplies, more higher end power supplies, if you want to call it that. And these test scripts allow you to program these sequences that you can load up into a USB stick, and then in turn you can load that to the actual power supply. And it's automated. You can kind of set, how many cycles you want to run through, how many, the start and the stop point, the type of voltage that you require, the duration, the current limits, the slew rate, protection. You can put up to 100 steps. But you can repeat those. So these types of patterns that you see here are being able, can generate those off of a simple CSV program, Excel based, right? So some of the power supplies that are applicable to this feature are PSU, PSW, and PFR, and with obviously adjustable slew rate. Now I did create a video for you guys. I don't know if Steve, if you're able to kind of play it over my presentation.
Well, I'm going to change presenter here for a second, and then, yeah, we're going to try to play your video.
All right.
Hang on a second.
All right, so now we're going to do a live demo of the test script function. What you'll see here is a CSV file from Excel format. We won't go into the details of the memos, but just real quickly, we're going to run it through 2 cycles. We're going to start at step 1 and at step 7. And these are the corresponding voltages you'll see on the scope and the amount of time each one will be on. So the file has already been uploaded to the power supply. If you just kind of access it, the test, you want to tell it, hey, let's turn it on, the output, and you'll see running through 2 cycles here on the scope. So I've just kind of slowed it down considerably so that we're able to see the 2 full cycles. So as you'll see, they're nice and linear, all nice and uniform. So something like this on a more expensive program would probably cost a good amount of money. So we're trying to give the customers a little bit more bang for the buck when we try to offer this type of test script function, which make your patterns a little bit easier to program. Yes, it may seem difficult at first, but once you get the hang of it, it should be pretty easy.
Kind of is. It's pretty much just program it into your Excel file, upload it to the USB, and just upload it to the power supply, and voila, you have a sequence of this type, of this nature. Now, I will say for this type of sequence, for these type of power supplies, don't expect response time in the microseconds, probably about 100 milliseconds that you're able to do. So it's pretty fast. If you do need something faster than that, we can talk about what we can do on our next segment on our ASR that we'll talk about in the next couple slides. So that's kind of the benefit of being able to have this type of feature on our power supplies, where hey, I don't have to spend that much money on power on software, expensive software, and going through this crazy programming that I need to go through and code. I'm not a coder myself, but I'm sure somebody with the right talent will be able to do this. But you would have to pay that person to be able to do that for you. So it's great to have. That's one of my favorite features that we have on our power supplies. The next thing I want to talk about is emulating cranking application with the test profiles for cranking applications. If you're not familiar with a cranking application, it mostly has to do with the automotive industry, where you, for example, you have a sensor and you need to kind of see how it responds to different types of voltage changes or environmental changes in terms of current and power draw, maybe even noise. So one of the things that a function generator is able to do is customize waveforms. You can include a DC and an AC waveform, and that's great. It's one of what these nowadays. Function generators can do a whole lot of things that we weren't able to do maybe 10, 15 years ago. However, when you require more power, talking about amp, 2 amps, 3 amps, 10 amps, a function generator is not enough. You kind of need a something a little bit more robust, more powerful. And standard DC supplies, they're not fast enough to be able to meet some of these requirements. And obviously, some of the engineers are not familiar with generating these type of profiles. So what we've come up with and what we've been offering for the past couple, I want to say 7 years. I've been here 4. I know we used to have an old AC DC power supply that did that, but we've updated that to our ASR 2000, 3000. And though prior to this series, we were only able to go up to 1 kVA. Now we're offering up to 4 kVA of power available to our customers. So what this series has, it acts, the way I put it is a function generator on steroids, pretty much, because you can generate these types of waveforms like that you see here, where you can customize it either off the software of an Excel file, or sometimes even off of if they're already programmed, off the actual panel themselves. And what this allows you to do is to integrate a DC component with an AC component as well. So as you can see here, you have an AC component here. It slides down. Another DC component, light DC component, and then you see this crazy waveform in between these two DC components. You would not be able to do that unless you have a very high capacity function generator. But obviously, if you don't have enough power for that, you're talking about 500 milliamps. If you need maybe 5, 10, 6 amps, the function generator is not going to be enough. So this is where we kind of come in with our product, and we're able to not only generate these type of waveforms, but we can meet the power specifications that some of our clients would have in regards to power, high power. I want to call it in this case high power for these type of waveforms. So as I said before, you can use a CSV file like we mentioned in our test script function, where you can just upload it onto the AC/DC power supply. And this is just an example of how it would be done. Now, I don't have a video for you in this case because I don't have a machine to do so, but it's similar. how it showed you in our test script function. You would just input your range. This is to give you a little preview of what it looks like. In this case, it's a sinusoidal wave. It would simulate it, and it would also just, you'll be able to just see your sample, which it would look like actually on the oscilloscope. Now, you can also use our software, which is free of charge. You don't have to pay anything additional. Just if you buy the product, you can download it off of our website, or it comes on the CD that's provided to you. And this software allows you to be able, for example, if you're looking at this waveform here, you're putting a sinusoidal, a square, a rectangular, you have some noise, some rise time, fall time. I tried the program out 2 weeks ago, and it's very simple to do. Wasn't that difficult. You would kind of save this profile onto the unit itself, and then output it. So the output would look something like this. It's very, it's what you program here is what you're going to see. You can even draw a freeform waveform. It looks kind of weird, but if you're trying to do a sinusoidal freeform, it's going to look very strange, but it can do it. It allows you for a lot of time, a lot of variety in terms of your signal and how you can actually output it. So it's very versatile when it comes to the types of signals you want to put out. Now, as I said before, on our test scripts and our DC power supplies, we can go up to about 100 milliseconds. With this one, you can go to 100 microseconds. So it's a lot faster, it's a lot more practical. It's just as easy as testing test scripts, but it allows you for this type of testing. Now, on some of the applications you would use this in would be if you're not familiar with this ISO standard, you don't have to be. But what this does, it allows you to do a wide variety of testing on certain components. You can program a momentary drop in voltage up to 100 microseconds. You can do a load dump where it just kind of goes up and it just gradually discharges. And you wouldn't, when you're talking about high power, 5 amps, 10 amps, you would not be able to do that on a regular power supply. So this type of power supply allows you for that type of versatility to be able to program these type of profiles into the power supply themselves. And there's about 8 or 10 of these waveforms. Some of them are pre-programmed into our machine, such as the half rectified or a full rectified half wave. You can easily program it from the panel, but it allows for a lot of versatility. Allows for you as the operator, as the engineer, to be able to program these type of waveforms without much of a hassle. So it kind of takes away a little bit of the stress of having to know programming, having to acquire another individual to program these. And obviously, we try to price these at a very accessible price point with comparisons to some of our competitors as well. So let's talk about the load testing. Obviously, there's 2 types, dynamic and transient. So some of the challenges that this presents to us, maybe we're not very good at programming. We're not good at setting these type of parameters up. So even though these loads here, these load profiles here look kind of simple to do. So this one's very basic, but when you get to this type of profile, where you have kind of a slow rise time here, a little slew rate up and down, that's a little bit more difficult to program, right? So at first you would say, well, it's challenging, not impossible, it's challenging. But so what we try to do is kind of make this as easy as you possibly can off of our panel, where you can program these type of profiles with this type of rise time and these type of curvature, rise and fall times off of our panel. And there's no external program needed. Now you can upload profiles to here as well, but we try to do it as simply as possible for you guys to be able to do it. We have if you look at our display, it's very informative. You have a lot of information here. It's pretty much like a digital multimeter, voltage, current, power. But you can program the rest of these types of settings here on the actual panel. So it's pretty friendly. So you can actually save the sequences as well, not only from the actual panel, but also from externally as well. You can just kind of save it, look at it later, come back, and if upload the actual program, you can do that as well. It also allows these type of R loads allow for external analog control if you're gonna if you want to kind of control it via voltage. There's a trigger, and we have a wide variety of interfaces as well, LAN, USB, GPIB, and some of these as well, input-output connections. So we're trying to make this as easy as to the customer to do without having to kind of go, oh my God, I got to program this thing, got to do upload profiles, it's going to take me forever. You know, once you kind of learn and you play around with the actual panel, the instrument itself, it becomes kind of very familiar, and you can memorize it. We do always recommend to read the manual. It helps, but if you want to kind of have a go at it prior to reading the manual, yeah, it's pretty intuitive. It was not something that's difficult to understand. So to recap, you know, we understand that there's, particularly in these times, there's budget, there's time, and there's limited resources. So these are the challenges that almost every company has. With that being said, you know, we try to offer a quality product at an affordable price to be able to confront these type of challenges that we just talked about. And you know, we don't sacrifice our quality for it. We have a pretty good reputation. I don't think ER or some of other distributors as well would say, hey, you know what, let's carry some bad quality product and to sell to our customers. Obviously, because their reputation would suffer, and so would ours. So, but typically, you know, we're about 20 to 30% less than our competitors when it comes to kind of apples to apples or similar product. You know, our LinkView software, it's very informative, it's very practical, it's very easy to use, and it allows you to kind of try before you buy, which is great for a lot of people. I don't know if there's many software manufacturers out there that allow you to try before you buy on their software. You have to kind of pay a penalty for returning product like that. So we try to do a kind of one-stop shop for everything. Have a common platform and kind of save you guys time. And we try to do our interfaces as user-friendly as possible to be able to kind of help you guys out in your applications. So we're kind of evolving as a company, not only in terms of our capacity, but also we try to kind of keep up with the market demands and the market needs. Some of our products that have recently come out are high-powered AC, DC power, electronic loads, as well as high-powered DC loads. So these loads here, as you can see, the AC, DC loads can go up to 180 kilowatts, and you can actually, you know, these are monophase, single phase, but you can actually configure 3 of these units to create a 3-phase system. So it's very versatile in that aspect. Now, if, you know, some people need both DC and AC for their applications. If you just want DC, we offer up to 192 kilowatts of power, up to 1,200 volts. So it's a lot. You know, these products just came out this year, about 4 or 5 months ago, I want to say. So it allows us to kind of expand our capacity in terms of a charge-discharge cycle. We still do offer our PAL 3000 going up to 9.5 kilowatts of load consumption. Our ASR series as well, like I stated before, we had limited up to 1 kVA, now we're up to 4 kVA. And recently we came out with a controller for these AC/DC power supplies. So you can actually configure 3 of these units to provide a 3-phase system. So in conjunction with our loads, hey, you know, it's a great kind of setup. However, the LinkView does not apply to these new products, but you know, hopefully with our new software coming out next year, that'll be able to be have that capacity. But it's great, you know, if you kind of just want to buy one, but all of a sudden you have a need for a 3-phase system, just buy 2 more, the controller, and hey, you have a great 3-phase system up to 4 kVA. Now, I do want to say, when you put these 3-phase systems into a wide configuration, you will have a full line-to-line voltage. So, for example, if you have 277 line to neutral, with a line-to-line Y configuration, you'll have 480 volts. So you have a higher capacity than you would ordinarily have just a single phase unit. Our PSU series, low profile, goes up to 600 volts or 200 amps, 1.5 kilowatts of capacity. You can stack these up to 4 on certain models to be able to acquire 4.2 kilowatts of power capacity output. Our GPM power meter as well. So these are all power products that you can use in conjunction with one another. Well, I'm sorry, with at least this particular, you can use it with these types of instruments as well to kind of monitor power, measure power factor, harmonics up to 50, order of 50. So we're trying to do a one-stop shop where you don't have to kind of go from, let's go to one manufacturer for a load, another for a power supply, another for a power meter. We try to do everything just to have a simple solution for you to be able to go to different factors and save you money. When you start comparing our instruments of similar type to our competitors, you'll see that we're a lot more affordable without sacrificing quality, of course. But we have everything pretty much. We have AC, DC sources, power sources, DC sources. We have a full range of power supply, multi-channel, linear instrumentation, power analyzers, oscilloscopes, safety testers. If you're in the market for a high pot tester, we offer a very wide variety of product for that as well. Multimeters, software packages, battery testers, milliometers, LCRs, loads, AC, DC, high power, low power, medium power. Hey, we got everything for you. Come on, come in, come on, one all, right? So I'm not trying to say use snake oil, of course. This is very, very specialized instrumentation for our customer base. But with the help of ER, we're able to promote our product as best we can. Hopefully this presentation was helpful to you, not only to get to know our company, but also the type of solutions that we have, and maybe have some idea of what you may need to do for some of your applications that we covered, right? I do want to say we currently have a promotion going on for our power products until the end of the year on our ASR product, AC/DC power supplies. They're currently about 15 and 10% off. This one is rack mountable, which means that if you look here, this would be a rack mountable. If it's just a bench top, you would have the output here to the side of it. With a rack mount system, you can put 2 into 1 rack. So you can, if you need a 3-phase system, you can use 2 of the racks to be able to control it, and the three power supplies to convert that into a 3-phase system. Our low profile power supplies here as well, they're 10% off, the 1500 and our PSW as well, 360 watts. Our medium electronic loads here also on sale. The high capacity, these are kind of the same, with the exception with the H, it gives you the high capacity 800 volts capacity to be able to input. Our oscilloscopes are also on sale as well, 200, 300 megahertz for channels. Our MDO, multi-domain oscilloscopes. These have a spectrum analyzer, an oscilloscope, function generator, function frequency response analysis software free of charge, integrated. So it's kind of like an all-in-one oscilloscope, very affordable, very accessible. It's been very popular as well. Our MSO, multi-signal, 200 megahertz for channels with an integrated 16-channel logic analyzer. This is not an option. This is standard. You see our price to 10% off, and our spectrum analyzer as well with the respective probe set as well as on sale. So we always have these types of promotions take advantage if you can before the end of the year. I know some of ours have started or are ending our fiscal years, but hey, if you got the budget for it, we're very accessible and we're here to help you as best we can. So at this point, I'd like to kind of open the forum up to any Q&A that we may have in the chat. So Steve.
Yes, we have some questions. Yes, we have questions. So a question was, when you're using a link view, it appears that the testing is independent of the battery chemistry, because you're dealing with the voltage and current of the individual setup, right? So there's no particulars on the cell chemistry. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, it's just monitoring voltage, current, power.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have two versions of LinkView, right? One is a free version, and then one is a paid version.
Correct.
Okay. How much is a paid version? Just out of curiosity.
It runs about 1,000.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. And how many batteries can be tested at a time with LinkView?
So we have capacity up to 12 channels. So you would have 12 batteries and 12 loads.
Okay. I think we're going to shift now into talking about ASR type applications here.
Okay.
Here's one about the cranking profiles. Do automotive companies have one set of standards for cranking profiles?
The only one that I am aware of is ISO 16750-2, and these are only two of our profiles. You can actually find more information, and it will be provided in the slides that we present to you here at the ISO.
Great.
So I can actually go to it right now, but it'll come make me out.
No, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it looks like here's another question, but I think it's in regards to the same type of thing because we're still talking about the ASR. When you're talking about which product do you recommend? I'm just going to read the question. Do you recommend for fast response and DC output? I think that's a fast transient response is what the question is. So is that the ASR product?
Yes, that's
Okay.
our fastest product that we have. Yes.
Okay, and then that's AC and DC, right?
Yes.
So, and you can do AC plus DC?
Correct. So you can put in, for example, a zero DC voltage and create. So if you're familiar with halfway rectified waveforms,
Mm-hmm.
where you're only taking half of the waveform and it kind of skips a cycle or half cycle,
Correct. Mm-hmm.
right? And it goes up to it. So you have that peak. You can create that. So you're implementing an AC component, which is a sinusoidal component, and a DC component,
On
which
top
is
of
just
the
straight
top of
voltage.
the AC, yeah. Okay,
Yes,
that's good. And the ASR software that you showed us is free software, right?
it's free software.
Okay.
You can download it from our website, or you can.
Okay.
I think it may come with.
So and here's a great question. So someone's probably had a little bit of experience with this. So do you offer sales support on the software and the hardware?
Yes.
Well,
So, for example, if you don't know how to kind of navigate through it, you would kind of contact myself.
okay.
Yeah. But I am planning to do more in-depth videos for this type of software. One thing is actually talking about it. I think it's just kind of showing it. We do have YouTube videos available for on some samples, but I think it's easier for me to do it on my end to be able to produce it for the U.S. market.
Okay, and I think that's all the questions. I've been trying to give everyone the copy of the slides, but the webinar software is not helping me out here. It's preventing me from putting the slides. So we'll send a thank you note out to everyone, and in that thank you note, we'll have a link and where everyone can get the slides.
Awesome.
Of your presentation. So thank you very much, Hector. It was very informative. We appreciate the heads up on, especially simplifying stuff that's not necessarily always simple.
Yeah, I try to be as less technical as possible, right?
Right.
So I do want to invite our attendees to visit our websites on some of the application notes, regarding battery charging and discharging, our test script setting, our ISO 16750-2 test profiles. You'll find all the waveforms that are applicable there. And just in general, if you have any more questions, I like working with Electrorent a lot. They're very professional, very knowledgeable. They seem to have a good grasp of all the applications questions that come in. But I like working with like Tony here in at least in my area, Bernard. But just in general, the Electrorent people are just phenomenal. They're great customer service, great people to work with, very helpful, very knowledgeable. And so if you have any questions with regards to myself or the applications that we talked about, shoot me an email, and we'll be able to kind of address any kind of questions you may have. Again, thank you, Steve, for organizing this, as well as the attendees that took their time out of the day to attend this webinar. I appreciate your attention, and hopefully we can do this again. So with that, I want to kind of say
we'll definitely do it again, and thanks for the great presentation. And with that, we're going to end the webinar. We'll be sending out a thank you for joining, and then you'll have a link of where you'll have a copy of all the slides in addition. But thanks a lot, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good one. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.